On July 30th, 2025, the Earth reminded us who's really in control. An 8.7 magnitude earthquake struck off the coast of Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula, unleashing panic across the Pacific. Tsunami alerts blared from Japan to Hawaii, and coastlines braced for impact. It's being called one of the strongest earthquakes in decades, and once again, the world held its breath. But what makes tsunamis so terrifying isn't just their size, it's their unpredictability. One moment, the sea is calm. The next, it's racing toward you like a freight train made of water. In today's countdown, we're diving into the top 10 deadliest tsunamis in history. Disasters so massive, they rewrote coastlines, erased cities, and changed the course of nations. Some were triggered by earthquakes, others by landslides or volcanic eruptions. But all of them had one thing in common: unimaginable destruction. Number 10. The 2011 Japan tsunami. It began with a violent 9.1 magnitude earthquake, the most powerful ever recorded in Japan. But that was just the beginning. Minutes later, a massive wall of water up to 40 meters high slammed into Japan's northeastern coast. Towns like Sendai and Rikuzentakata were erased in seconds. What made this tsunami uniquely devastating wasn't just the death toll, it was what came after. The Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster turned a natural catastrophe into a long-term radiation crisis. Over 450,000 people were displaced, many losing everything they had in a matter of hours. Tsunami warning systems were in place, but the waves overwhelmed even the most advanced defenses. Concrete seawalls crumbled, entire trains vanished. This disaster cost Japan over $360 billion, making it the most expensive natural disaster in history, and a stark warning that even the most prepared nations aren't immune to nature's fury. Number 9. The 1883 Krakatoa tsunami. The eruption of Krakatoa wasn't just loud, it was apocalyptic. The sound was heard 3,000 miles away, and the force of the explosion literally tore the island apart. Ash darkened the skies around the world, and sunsets glowed blood red for months. But the real killer came moments later. A series of gigantic tsunamis, some reaching 40 meters in height, crashed into the coasts of Java and Sumatra, obliterating over 165 villages. Ships were launched into forests. Coastal towns were flattened in seconds. Eyewitnesses described the sea retreating so far that it exposed the ocean floor, before returning with unimaginable force. Entire communities were washed away, and ships were thrown inland like toys. Some were discovered miles from the shoreline, embedded in rice fields. This disaster didn't just reshape Indonesia's geography, it caused a global temperature drop, blocked sunlight for weeks, and changed weather patterns for years. Number 8. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. A day after Christmas in 2004, the world woke up to horror. A 9.1 magnitude megathrust earthquake off the coast of Sumatra triggered one of the most catastrophic tsunamis in human history. The waves struck Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, Thailand, Somalia, and more, sometimes hours after the initial quake. Entire resort towns were swallowed, and footage of the destruction went viral before viral was even a word. Security cameras, vacation videos, and news crews captured the unthinkable in real time. Children were ripped from their parents' arms. Entire neighborhoods disappeared. Over 230,000 lives lost, and more than 1.7 million displaced. In Banda Aceh alone, 70% of the population was gone. It also marked a turning point. After this disaster, the world began investing heavily in tsunami detection systems. But for many, it came too late. The Indian Ocean had no warning infrastructure. Now, dozens of countries monitor seismic activity 24/7, thanks to the lessons paid for in blood. Number 7. The 1707 Hoi tsunami. Long before modern warning systems, Japan faced another devastating blow. The Hoi earthquake, estimated at magnitude 8.6, struck near the Nankai Trough and triggered massive tsunamis that hit Shikoku, Kyushu, and Honshu. Coastal towns were swept away, with some reports claiming that boats were found kilometers inland. The destruction was so widespread that entire provinces were isolated, cut off by washed-out bridges and flooded roads. Rice fields were salted by the sea, ruining entire harvests. Homes were flattened. What followed was widespread famine, disease, and economic collapse. Survivors were forced to rebuild from scratch in a society that lacked both resources and communication. And here's the haunting twist. Just 49 days later, Mount Fuji erupted for the last time. Many historians believe the two events were connected, showing how earthquakes and volcanoes can work hand in hand to unleash chaos across an already suffering region. Number 6. The 1960 Chilean Tsunami. The 1960 Valdivia earthquake remains the most powerful ever recorded, a jaw-dropping magnitude 9.5. But the ground shaking was only part of the disaster. Within 15 minutes, tsunamis were on the move, crossing the Pacific Ocean at 500 miles per hour. Chile's coastline was hammered, but the waves didn't stop there. Hawaii, Japan, and even the Philippines were hit hours later. People had time to run, but most didn't know what was coming. In Hawaii's Hilo Bay, the tsunami killed 61 people and caused widespread destruction. Entire blocks were reduced to splinters. In Japan, over 100 people lost their lives as seawalls were overwhelmed. This event proved that a tsunami could be a global threat, not just a local one. It prompted the creation of the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center and forever changed how nations respond to ocean-based disasters. Even with today's technology, we'd struggle to stop the scale of destruction unleashed that day. Number 5. The 1958 Lituya Bay Mega Tsunami. It may not have killed thousands, but it's still the most powerful tsunami wave ever recorded. After a massive landslide triggered by an earthquake, a wave 524 meters, 1,720 feet, high surged through Lituya Bay in Alaska. Let that sink in, 524 meters. That's taller than the Empire State Building. The wave was so massive it stripped trees off mountains up to 1,700 feet above sea level. Boats were thrown across the bay like rubber ducks. Fortunately, the remote location meant casualties were low. But had this struck a populated coastline, it would have been catastrophic. This event showed that not all tsunamis come from quakes, and not all water disasters are survivable, even if you're on high ground. Number 4. The 1792 Unzen Tsunami. This tsunami didn't begin in the ocean. It started with a mountain collapsing. In 1792, Japan's Mount Unzen, a volcanic peak on the Shimabara Peninsula, erupted violently. But it wasn't the lava or ash that caused devastation. The real disaster came when a massive chunk of the mountain collapsed into the Ariake Sea, triggering a tsunami so powerful it swallowed entire coastal towns. What makes the Unzen tsunami especially terrifying is its double impact. Waves were generated both by the earthquake and the landslide, amplifying destruction on both shores of the bay. The tsunami reached heights over 20 meters, killing more than 15,000 people. It remains Japan's deadliest volcano-induced tsunami, and a grim reminder that water and earth disasters often go hand in hand. Number 3. The 1868 Arica Tsunami. In 1868, the city of Arica, now part of Chile, was bustling with trade and life. But on August 13th, a massive 8.5 to 9.0 magnitude earthquake ruptured offshore. And moments later, a wall of water came crashing through history. The tsunami destroyed the city and caused massive damage along the coasts of Peru, Chile, and farther west, including Hawaii and New Zealand. Ships were carried hundreds of meters inland, and Arica's port was erased. One particularly chilling detail? A Peruvian warship, the America, was tossed into the streets like a bathtub toy. It sat there, stranded on land, a monument to the power of water for years afterward. The Arica tsunami proved that long-distance tsunamis can cross entire oceans and still carry deadly force, changing how we view distant quakes forever. Number 2. The 1498 Nankai earthquake and tsunami. 5 centuries ago, Long before modern seismology, Japan was rocked by a disaster that echoes into the present. The 1498 Nankai earthquake, estimated at 8.6 magnitude, triggered a series of colossal tsunami waves that devastated the southern coast of Honshu. Temples, homes, and farmlands were destroyed. Historical records describe waves that carried entire fishing villages into the sea. The famous Great Buddha of Kamakura, which still stands today, reportedly survived only because of its elevation, though the surrounding area was decimated. This ancient tsunami was one of the most destructive natural disasters in Japanese history. And here's the unnerving part. Scientists expect a similar Nankai megathrust quake to happen again, possibly in our lifetime. The Nankai region is now under constant watch, because next time, the death toll could be far higher. Number 1. The 2004 Indian Ocean Tsunami. Yes, we already mentioned it at number 8. But in terms of death toll, scale, and long-term impact, the 2004 Indian Ocean Tsunami deserves a second, deeper mention, because it was the deadliest tsunami in recorded history. Triggered by a 9.1 magnitude megathrust earthquake, the undersea fault slipped along a 1,600-kilometer stretch. That's nearly the length of the U.S. East Coast. The energy released was equivalent to 23,000 Hiroshima bombs. The waves hit Indonesia within minutes. But even 8 hours later, the same tsunami was killing people on the coasts of Somalia, over 4,000 kilometers away. Families on vacation were swept away in Thailand. Entire cities vanished in Banda Aceh. And tragically, many had no warning. There was no tsunami alert system in place at the time. It was a wake-up call for the entire world. In its aftermath, global organizations came together to form the Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning System, now capable of issuing alerts across multiple countries. But for the hundreds of thousands who died, it was already too late. Tsunamis are nature's deadliest ambush. Silent at first, unstoppable when they strike. If you live in a coastal area, take these warnings seriously. Learn the signs. Know your evacuation routes, and always respect the ocean. Like this video if you learned something new, share it to help spread awareness, and drop a comment. Which tsunami from this list shocked you the most? This is Top Facts, and we'll see you in the next video.